Hello and welcome to another live hangout here at Voice Essentials. It is so good to be hanging out with you for the second last show of the year, 2023. It's nearly done. It's nearly done. Here in Brisbane, Australia, it is the 20th of November, and we're a little bit wet locally. We've got a little bit of rain going on, so let us know where you are, reporting in from the world and what the weather's like. And many of you in the northern hemisphere, you're all heading into your winter. We're currently heading the opposite direction. We're heading into our summer and coming to the end of spring. So yes, it's all happening. Today we are going to do a Q&A. Oh, not before I forget to mention, because Linda told me this morning that it's World Children's Day. Am I getting that right, Linda? Linda, throw it into the doc just to make sure that I've got this right. World Children's Day? I think that's right. If it is, that's a good thing to celebrate, right? Children being our future and all that. It's important that children are happy, healthy, safe, educated, treated equally across all groups and reasons, and so sadly that's not the case everywhere in the world. But yes, celebrating. Yes, she says in the doc. Yes, it is World Children's Day. We have, like I said, we're going to do a Q&A today, and where we've only got one more show next week. Linda will be joining me next week. She's already scared me with a few of the statistics from the past year and how many live shows we've done. I got to the end of Linda kind of giving me some insights into some of the statistics she's been digging up for us for the last show. And all I could say was, that just makes me feel tired, Linda. So join in next week for our last show. As you know, we do take 2 months off from the live show, not from reaction videos or instructional videos that will be going live across December, January. But we take 2 months off from this live show, and so today we may get to in fact we almost certainly will get to a couple of questions next week for our final show, just to round the year up. But if you want your question answered, today's the day. Make sure you throw your questions into the live chat. Linda identifies them. She puts into a document for me, and I'll do my best to answer your questions today. So we take 2 months off, all of December, January, because Linda and I need a break. We need to take some time off, and then we come back. Our first show back is Monday, the 5th of February, Australian Eastern Standard Time. For many of you, that'll be the 4th of Feb. And so check your local, guys, check your local times, but it will continue to be at the same time as it has been every week this year, 1 p.m. Monday, Australian Eastern Standard Time. We're going to have special guests next year. We're going to have Q&As. We're going to continue with the mini topics, because I think you've been getting something out of that. At least I'd like to think you have been. And certainly the reports are that you've been enjoying those. So we'll continue with those in the new year. Also, the Q&A will continue. Yeah, so all things being equal, everything will continue as we have, hopefully with less technical let's face it, the ever true constant of doing these live shows is technical challenges, and I'm hoping that we don't have any technical challenges today. I will let you know, though, at 3 o'clock this afternoon, so in a couple of hours, I am going to be completely rebuilding the software, not rebuilding the software, rebuilding the file that I have to build within the software that I use to do these live shows so that I can upgrade to the latest version. I'm hoping that goes okay. Oh dear, fingers crossed. I've shared it with you before. Nothing stresses me out more than this program. It just causes me no end of nightmares. But hopefully it'll be all okay, and it'll all come good, and it'll be fine. We've got some new people in the chat. Hello to every new person. Hello to all of our old hats, and I hope you're all doing well. Okay, have we got any questions yet? We do not have any questions yet. Make sure you jump in and ask your questions, because without any questions, the live Q&A doesn't really go very far. And we've never had to do it before, but you know, it would make for a very short show if a live Q&A didn't have any questions, because without any questions, I can't provide you with any answers. While we're waiting for some questions to come in, what I will say to you is, of course, we over at on the Facebook group. If you're not a part of the Facebook group, let me invite you cordially to be a part of our group over at Facebook. If you search Voice Essentials Community Group, then you'll find us. To participate in that, you do have to agree to the administrator rules, the group rules, because it is a closed group in one sense. It's not a closed group as in we let everyone come in who's willing to, you know, adhere to those group rules, which are pretty reasonable. But over the next number of weeks, as we move into the festive season, many of you will know that Kathy Snyder, the preeminent Kathy Snyder, is running the secret singer something. I forget I always get the name wrong. But basically, it's where you record. I think we're basically the opportunity to participate as a person who offers their recording, to have it selected by someone else and they swap it, and that's all closed. But that's going to be, I think, some secret singers are already starting to be posted up onto the group. So make sure you check that out. Last year it was so cool. It was so good to see so many people joining in. This year we've got, I think it's over 30 people who are participating, recording their song that they've had chosen for them by another community member. You can see how the Secret Santa kind of secret thing goes. And we'll get to enjoy the festive spirit over the coming weeks as we head towards Christmas. You do not have to be a person who celebrates Christmas to have participated, because people were able to specify non-religious songs. And so, yeah, that's what we've got going on. We've got some questions. So let's dive into the questions straight after this. Okay. So let's find. We've got a question here from Lennon. So Lennon is asking a question. Let me just bring this down a little bit. So Lennon's asking a question. After a heavy workout, athletes may sit in an ice bath to rejuvenate the muscles. What can singers do to rejuvenate the vocal apparatus after a heavy voice workout? What a great question. Lennon, certainly I wouldn't be advocating for putting your voice in an ice bath. Let's just put that out there. Alongside that, I am going to say, to my knowledge, there hasn't been any research around a so-called voice ice bath. Wouldn't that be fascinating? I want to say I think we would find that it would be not ideal. That's where my thinking goes. but I don't know. I don't know that there's been any any research around that. Man, can you imagine the ethics clearance for that? That would be a good challenge. Anywho, what I would advocate for, though, Lennon, is, and this is an area, it's probably, in fact, I know it is a more neglected area probably than any other area, including vocal warm-ups. Vocal warm-ups tend to be an area that is not done as consistently by a lot of singers as they probably need to. But an area that's even more neglected is vocal cool downs, and actually taking the opportunity to cool the voice, to return the voice back to an even setting where the voice is cooled down, turned off, all good, and kind of back at a neutral setting. And can I be honest with you and say I sang on Sunday, leading my local church, not a big vocal load, and in fact I didn't get to the end of it feeling vocally fatigued at all. But consequently, do you know what I forgot to do? And it's because I kind of got swept up in the aftermath of talking with people and bumping out and packing down. I forgot to warm down. Now, that just goes to show I'm generally pretty attentive to it, but it is one of those things that's so easy to neglect. And I put my hand up and acknowledged that on Sunday I neglected it. But I can tell you, when I do remember to do it, the virtue that I experience for my voice is noticeable. It's not, dare I say, noticeable in the moment. It's noticeable hours later in the condition of my phonation, the condition of my tone and sound, dare I say even just in my normal talking. My voice does not feel as fatigued. And that's because a good vocal cool down helps to move on any tendency for the voice to want to retain protective fluid, and also to move on that lactic acid buildup that your muscles, and we have muscles within the larynx intrinsically and extrinsically that are going to retain lactic acid, just like every other big muscle and small muscle in your body. And so when we move that lactic acid on, you're going to find that that's going to be much more beneficial for you. So no, the ice bath, probably not a great idea, but the cool down, I think will definitely help to rejuvenate your voice, Lennon. And so if you can get into the habit of that, you know, the regular habit, and try not to miss them like I did on Sunday, try to get into that habit, and I think you'll really experience the benefits of it. Yeah, I hope that's helpful. Kelly has a question. Kelly's question is, sometimes when I try to make my voice bigger, it sounds like an echo. Is this good? Ooh, sounds like an echo. I wonder what when I think of echo, Kelly, I think of Kelly. I kind of feel like I'm at the Grand Canyon and I'm getting that echo. I wonder if that's what you mean. When we do work towards bigger voice, the great temptation is to derive that by effort. You and I, Kelly, have spoken about this in person in our private lessons together. But just in general for everyone, the biggest challenge in developing a bigger sound is to do it efficiently. And the way we do that is by obtaining or setting up optimal settings for the voice. And that optimal setting is going to come from not driving the voice too hard with too much air pressure, firstly. having consistent airflow is really important, but reducing the air pressure, but then shaping the vocal tract in such a way as to enhance the resonance for volume, because the vocal tract filters certain resonance, and if it's too broad, the resonance is too broad, then what you're going to get is just this big, broad, brutish rah, right? Whereas if you've got a really clear, focused tone, a much more optimal, much more sustainable resonance, then what you are likely to experience is a more efficient outcome, and actually more voice. In private lessons with students, I often refer to it as getting more bang for your buck. It can be surprising to new students, in particular when I'm working on this, that just how much more volume you get when you do what feels like you're doing less. And it's a weird kind of thing, because you go, but I don't feel like I'm doing enough, let alone doing anything. And that's where I always go, good, hold on to that. Let's see if you can establish that and work that into your muscle memory, because that's where we want to be. We don't want you working too hard. We don't want you overdriving the voice. Why? Because, that's inefficient. And maybe over 1-2 songs, not a big deal. I would argue it probably is a big deal, but if you find yourself working as a singer over over a set of 40-50 minutes, multiple sets a night, 3 or 4 sets a night, and if you're doing that, having to do that 4 or 5 nights a week, efficiency is everything. And so that's why we go looking to set up these optimal settings for the voice. Thanks, Kelly, for your question. Let's jump over to Nicole. Nicole is asking about microphones. She's 2 years into singing seriously. On impulse, I bought a Blue Yeti Pro mic. Do you think this is a good mic for singing in a home studio, or are there better ones? I do know the Blue Yeti. They kind of got a cool, really cool look to them, don't they? The Blue Yeti. You're being very specific to the Blue Yeti Pro. I can't speak specifically to that, but my understanding is that microphone, and certainly my understanding of Blue Yeti, though I'm happy to be corrected on this if I'm not thinking of exactly the right mic, because brands, in this case Blue Yeti, they will often have a variety of different mics to do different jobs. The Blue Yeti mic that I'm thinking of is a podcast mic. Podcasts are typically for speech, and therefore the resonance, let's refer to the frequency response of the mic, and the ability for it to handle amplitude is often, not always, often not as broad as a singing mic. Now, the reason I say often is because this mic that I'm using right here, this is an S7B, a Shure S7B. It is a industry standard studio mic. You'll see them all the time on podcasts that have a little bit more of a professional standard to them, but they are also used as vocal mics. But that comes at a price, because you've got to be able to plug it into a sound system. The sound system's got to be able to give the mic phantom power and enough gain lift, because these are very quiet, so they need a lot of gain. And so, everything comes everything comes at a cost, Nicole. So the difficulty is it's very difficult to buy a one catch all mic, because more often than not, they are the mics that you buy more at the pro end, we're talking now, are very focused in their design. They are designed to do a specific job. The Blue Yeti, you may be, I mean, you would be able to record your singing on it. You definitely could. It's what is the quality of that recording going to be, and that's probably the part that becomes debatable, and you know, determined by what your expectations are, what your audience's expectations are, and also what you decide to do with it if you've got skills for post-production work. So hopefully that's helpful answer to you. The Blue Yeti as a podcast mic, I think you're going to find it really, really quite good. But I can't speak to it as to it as a sort of a recording for singing mic. Let's come up here to Crystal. Crystal's got a question. Can you explain, this is about breath management, everyone. Can you explain what it feels like to use proper breath support? Do you tighten abs or bear down with the pelvic floor? Crystal, that's a good question. It's a good question, and the answer will be determined by, in some parts, by who you ask. Breath management continues to be a contested space within academia, within voice teaching. Through the 20th century, the standout methodology for breath management was a methodology called Appoggio. And so that's what I grew up learning and started teaching. Then came along another methodology called accent method. Over time, I've sort of created my own hybrid, because I've acknowledged that you know, you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. There are some real benefits particularly for contemporary singers from both, despite the fact that accent method, when approached as a zealot, is very anti-Appoggio. That all being said, let me answer the question as I would answer it, but I did want you to know that you could find yourself asking a different singing teacher and you could get, you know, almost an opposite answer to this. What you don't want to do, again, this is Dr. Dan talking, you do not want to find yourself with a tightening of the vocal, of the abdominal wall. The abdominal wall must remain flexible. It must have the ability to release on inhalation. So the air comes in and you release, so you let your abdominal wall fall away. And then as you exhale, you really want your abdominal wall to have a sense of being a bit like firm jelly, and you exhale on an SH. Oh, sorry, that's an exercise. I almost went into automated mode there. As you exhale, you want to have that sense of firm jelly as you exhale, and in this case, you'd be exhaling and phonating. I've just realized something I forgot to do at the beginning of the show, but this gives me the opportunity to let you know that right now, and for the next basically week, so breath management is a big part of what I teach in my online courses. Right now, let me see if I can bring that up. Right now, I have a Black Friday, Cyber Monday sale. There's 50% off store-wide at voiceessentials.com.au. When you use for any product on the online shelf, if you will, you've got to use the Black Friday 50 code, and that code will give you the 50% off anything. That includes the Pro bundle. The Pro bundle is usually 500 Australian dollars. Right now, you would get it for literally half that. It's a massive, massive saving. So just on that point again, we go into breath management in a lot of depth. You know, sometimes singing teachers, I don't think you'll find a singing teacher who doesn't, you know, at least mention breath management in their teaching. What often, I won't say often, what can happen is, despite the fact that the teacher might mention it, it can find itself not really being attended to, in part because there's got to be a systematic approach to it. We take that systematic approach in the Voice Essentials program, so make sure you check that out, and hopefully that will be helpful for you. As far as, just finally to answer your question about bearing down with the pelvic floor, there is a really necessary, appropriate activation of the pelvic floor in our breath, but not bearing down. Anything that has you gripping is going to lead to tension, is going to lead to tight voice. And so certainly in my approach, we don't look to bear down with anything. And so I hope that's helpful to you. Crystal, let's see, where's Sharon? Sharon's got a question. Gee, the questions came in thick and fast, didn't they, after all of that? You're working on exercises on opening using my soft palate. Yes. When I try to and sing loudly, I feel myself restricting my breath. That would allow proper power and volume. Is this the right approach? I've got to read that again, Sharon, because I don't know, maybe I'm dyslexic. I'm working on exercises on opening and using my soft palate. Okay, so we're looking to activate more shape and space, which is really for the benefit of your tone. When I try and sing loudly, I feel myself restricting my breath. That would allow power and volume. So again, it speaks to what we were talking earlier, and that is, it's all about optimal setting. It's very easy to overdrive the sound in an attempt to be louder, in an attempt to increase power. But these settings that we adjust as we activate power, when we are in that optimal zone, they're micro adjustments. They're not big changes. And so it really is about learning those subtle adjustments, very, very fine movements, because there is an increase in subglottal pressure when we create volume, but not to the degree that we naturally will increase the volume, the phonatory threshold pressure, the subglottal pressure of the air traveling through the vocal tract. And so it's us learning to not be overt, to not do everything on a macro scale. And so you've got to really be mindful of that. What you're doing with your soft palate and creating shape, keeping the tongue up and forward, that's a really important thing. Your tongue, when we do get good shape through the vocal tract, your tongue's often going to want to pull back, in part because the increase in pressure, the tongue wants to feel like it's going to sit on the top of the hyoid bone and help to support and structure the larynx. It doesn't need to do that. We don't want it to do that. We want to keep the tongue relatively free and agile, and so that's something you can work on, Sharon, and I hope that answers your question. Benensky. I hope I'm saying that right, Benensky. Here we go. Where are you? Here we go. The question. Here we go. I have a question. Yeah, I know. What should I focus on as a complete beginner singer? Well, actually, I take complete beginner singers through with the Voice Essentials program. What I would encourage you to do, and again, this reinforces the idea that I think you'd really benefit from the Voice Essentials process, is you want to be systematic. Approach the development of your voice methodically. So often, for example, if we're just learning by watching shows online and watching, so there's some really good creators online that give, pretty good information when it comes to instruction. I like to think I'm amongst them. But when we approach it like that, your first lesson, your first instructional video with me might be, I don't know, working on articulation. And then the next one that the algorithm serves you, well, it's likely to serve you what it thinks you will watch, but that won't necessarily be what's beneficial to you educationally as far as a pathway to take. Whereas when we do the online course that I've set up, there's no algorithm deciding what's next. It's what I've decided as someone who's got a doctorate in teaching people to sing, and we step it out step by step. You are going to have far more success in approaching it that way, in a methodical, systematic, step-by-step process. There is some delayed gratification to go on. There is. Good things come to those who wait and step this out over time. And the first course, for example, when done appropriately, you really want to approach it one module a week. So we're looking at, it's going to take you anywhere between 10 to 12, 15 weeks. Might even be longer if you find yourself getting distracted by other things in life, which happens. But that's what I would encourage you. As a beginner, that's where I'd have you start. Start at the beginning. Don't just jump into YouTube and wait for the algorithm to decide for you. Algorithms are very good at keeping you on YouTube, but not very good at educating you and delivering really positive results in that regard. So that might sound like it was just a big sales pitch, Benensky, but that's what I think. And just so you don't hold the idea that it was just a big sales pitch, that would be the case with any course that you could do online. Trust the human being who's laid it out for you, not the what is it called? An algorithm. We've got one more question here from Nicole. Nicole is asking any advice on how to work through sudden vocal tension in the middle of an emotionally powerful song, mainly for the muscle tension dysphonia piece. What a great question, Nicole. When we have the larynx grab like that, it can be quite a challenge, and the great temptation in that moment is to clear the throat. Don't do that. That should be an absolute last resort. What you want to try and do is just swallow. If you can find yourself swallowing first, it may well be, and it doesn't need to be water, as in doesn't need to be, in fact, would you mind? I am just going to, it doesn't need to be a swallow of water, though. If you have water on, at the ready, then a single mouthful of water will cause you to swallow. But as I said, you don't need the water. You can just swallow your own spit, but some people have more saliva available than others. that swallowing mechanism will actually help the voice to raise and drop. And in that very simple motion, the musculature that may have seized up none of this is a definite, but more often than not, that musculature that's seized up will release. If you were to try and do that with a clearing of the throat, and this is one of the greatest temptations for people who suffer from muscle tension dysphonia, which incidentally, everyone, it's a very umbrella catch-all term, more often than not used within the speech pathology arena, but it's a catch-all term for a variety of different things that cause the voice to lock up. More often than not referred to in instantaneous lockups, which is, I think, what Nicole is getting at here. And so if we were to try to free that up with a clear, a clearing is actually a tightening, a grabbing of the musculature, and that's the very thing that we're trying to release. So unless a speech pathologist has given you specific instruction, personalized instruction, to clear that with a throat clear, which would be highly unusual. But unless that's the case, then clearing should definitely be an absolute last resort. If the simple swallow doesn't work, you can try just doing a lip bubble just over a really easy, like a siren, but not a big, wide siren, just a sort of an octave. And that can help to create that semi-occluded space that's going to create a good resonance impedance to help move the vocal folds in such a way as to free them up again. And that would be a good option. And that's something I've done it myself multiple times. I can't remember how many times because I've done it a lot. On stage in the middle of a performance, if I get a sense that I'm getting locked up, my go-to is I haven't got time to go and grab water. I don't want to clear. And so just a really easy lip bubble or tongue trill. If you don't do either of those well, maybe even a hum. And these semi-occluded functions can help to just ease everything, free everything up. And that's what I would recommend there. We don't seem to have any more questions. I hope that was helpful. Nicole, you got a couple of questions in there, which is good. And I'm going to highlight this because I want to say thank you, Sharon. Sharon's saying, don't forget to hit the like button. Agreed, Sharon. Don't forget to hit the like button on these videos because it is helpful to the channel and it helps people discover us and that's a good thing. Well, without seeking to drive you to any more questions, thank you for all the questions that came through today. It certainly makes for a more interesting show than had we had none. And I hope that the answers that I was able to provide you were helpful and you'll be able to walk away and workshop with those. Next week, the last show of 2023. Wow. Linda, are you looking forward to it? I'm looking forward to having Linda on the show. Linda will join us, and as I said, she's got a whole heap of stats that we're going to be able to really enjoy. Before we go, don't forget. So here's the thing. Don't forget, for the next week, Black Friday 50. If you put that in, you get 50% off every single item on the voiceessentials.com.au site, and that includes the Pro bundle, which has got everything. If you want everything, you get everything in that. ladies and gents, that's us for today. Second last show of the year, done. Next week, last show. Linda will join in, and yeah, then we're both going to take a couple of months off and regain our breath and get ready for another big year. I do hope you'll join us then, and I hope you have a great week. I hope you're safe and healthy wherever you are, and that things are going well for you. I very much look forward to seeing you next week for the last show. I'm Dr. Dan. Sing well.